I feel that last time it wasn't made clear enough just how cool I am in compared to this game to bring you guys and make you feel immersed. So, we're going with the proper knob and wearing it the right way this time. This is a hat I own. Genuine hat I own. Bought for me. Didn't buy this by myself. My taste knows some limits. But now you should feel modern and hip. So every time you feel immersed and you're like, well, I feel like I'm in 1820 again, look at the hat. Bang! I'm back in 2016. Come and see, come and see. Ah, mademoiselle, you do not need to tug at me. It is a promise. I will follow you. Her hand still in Sarah's, Mariette stepped into the classroom. I'm very sorry. I was too excited. That's quite all right then. Now, what is it you wish to show me? I dread to think. Well, as it happens, it is more what I wished for you to show me. Miss Minchin keeps a globe in the schoolroom. I was hoping that you could show me where in France you were born. You dragged her along for that? She has work to do. Our room doesn't clean itself. God damn it. Ah, if it pleases you, mademoiselle. I do not think it will make much impact for you, though. The distance between one city another, compared to the world, it is not so much. Dutifully, she turned the globe to bring France into view. Somewhere near here, I believe, would be Limoges. Sarah followed Mariette's finger, then smiled to herself. You were right, it does not tell me anything more than I already knew. Why are we now like a 6-year-old? Could you show me where you lived in India? Here, I think, or somewhere nearby. It's hard to be sure, but this is where the ship took us. Sarah tilted her head and considered Mariette curiously. You are very different from an Indian servant. Go on, I'd love to hear your reasoning. Is it offensive? My Ayah was always kind to me. But she would never tell me if I were doing something wrong or making a mistake. Even if I asked for her opinion, she would always say that I was right. It was very confusing sometimes until I learned to ask my papa when I needed to know something. Your papa wrote of you that you were a clever and curious child who was eager to learn, and who would appreciate having the reasons explained to you. Yes, that is just so. It was another sign of how much her papa had considered her needs and well-being, and it made Sarah feel warm to think it. Really? I mean... Hey, by the way, she's curious as fuck, and she will just get annoyed if no one ever explains it to her. Like, I think he's more saving himself than he's considering your brain and mind, but yeah, sure, whatever. Every time Mariette speaks to me, it is a gift from my papa. I do miss my Ayah sometimes. Sorry, I need to face a little bit more over here, but here's the microphone. What's more preferable to you guys, decent sound or a swag hat? The swag hat, right? It has... joke. And the other servants from our home. They were always a part of my life, even the ones that worked directly for my papa who did not speak to me. They were familiar. I wish I could see them again. Tell you what, we'll compromise. There we go. So I can't hear the music now, but... Actually, hang on. Let me just redo these headphones like that so I can hear in my right ear, which I can barely hear out of. And now the headphones covering the G. Okay, this is an ill-fated idea. Let's just go back to this. There we go. Brat, 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 bruv. All of my life, I suppose my life hasn't really been that long, but I always knew that I would have to go away, like other children did. There you are. That's a good compromise. The climate of India is very bad for children. So we must return to England and go to school. That is what everyone says. Let's not do that. I can barely fucking see. I wonder if the climate of England very bad for Indian children also. Perhaps that is why none of them travelled with us here. Perhaps that is so. If, as you say, the climate is very different, then it could be very difficult to adjust. However, mademoiselle, it is also very possible that they do not wish to travel so far from the homes and families that they love. Oh, yes, I didn't think of that. I would not wish to leave either. If I had the choice, I would rather be at home with my papa. It is very difficult to leave behind all that you have known and travel to a foreign land. But this is a foreign land to you. Wasn't it difficult to leave your family and home in France? Mariette's smile was enigmatic. Who can say? Perhaps it is for the best, in the best of all words. What, do they not like you? We're just leaving that one here, are we? Good. The weather was warm and fine. The skies of London unusually clear. Looks like it's curved. As such, Miss Minchin, the clown that is, Miss Minchin had decided that the proper Sunday outing for her girls was a long walk through parks and gardens. Keep up, keep together, a lady's health is also an important accomplishment. Hang on, why are we only mildly hot and they're really hot? Also, why does chibi art make everyone look fat? I mean, come on. Some of those girls' cheeks have cheeks bigger than mine. Also, fucking Lotte. While the temperature outside was not as great in itself, the ceaseless beating of sunlight upon little heads slowly made their Sunday dresses a difficult burden to bear. It's like the same dresses we've always worn. This is abominable. My complexion will be ruined. I have to write to my father and complain. She adjusted the position of her parasol on her shoulder and sighed. Parasol. Sunstopper. That's quite cute. You can't call them umbrellas. It has to be a parasol. Sorry, it's Spanish. No proper young lady should be forced to drudge about on foot like this. Is that not why we have horses? Miss Minchin said that horses should have a day of rest on Sundays. As if a horse would know or care what day it is. I deserve a carriage. It is due of my rank. Lavinia was not the only girl complaining about the walk. Sarah, I'm tired. Everyone is tired. Sarah, won't you carry me? You have to walk by yourself. You're too big for me to carry. I've just noticed. Ermengarde's apparently fucking like 5'5" or something. Unless the teacher is also a dwarf and we haven't really addressed it until now. Look at this. Look how tall she is. And then look. Down by like a couple inches is Ermengarde. Besides, it would be undignified. Our Sarah may be many things, but she is not a horse. Perhaps you should ask Ermengarde. Lavinia. What did I say? I was only pointing out that she seemed to be better handling this walk than Lotte is. Sarah looked at her friend. True enough, though Ermengarde's cheeks were as flushed as anyone else's, she appeared to be walking steadily along without slowing or complaining. I'm amazed the teacher hasn't said anything. Aren't you tired and hot? Yes. I always feel tired and hot when we walk back from church, so I'm used to it. But this walk is so much longer. It all seems the same to me. Ermengarde has great endurance. It is a virtue. A soldier must have great endurance and be able to carry on through much more difficult circumstances than this. A soldier might have to walk miles in the sun in uniform and carry heavy pack besides and be ready to fight when he arrived. I'm not certain. I think they were just dying when they got there, honestly. I'm sure every soldier was like, well, whew, I feel a little warm, but I actually feel okay now we've got to this destination. I'm not sure that's the thing that happened. Our lives are so much easier, but we must be good soldiers as best we can. If Ermengarde can bear it, then I can bear it. You look like you've just got worse. If Jessie can bear it, then I shall have to bear it. What's that supposed to mean? What did you mean? Nothing. I don't want to bear it. I want someone to carry me. You have legs, use them, the same as we are. I don't want to. No one is going to carry you, so if you don't walk, you'll be left here all alone. Why didn't we think of this beforehand? This is a great idea. Fuck it, just leave it here. Oh, it'll be great. Why can't we do that, please? And then it will get dark and the tigers will come out and eat you up. There are no tigers. There aren't any tigers in London. You want to make things up like that. Well, she likes it when Sarah makes up things. Sarah spoke quickly to head off the threat of Lotte deciding to cry and fuss. We will all have tea later in my rooms, and I will tell you stories. But first we must return to school, which means we must walk. Lotte sighed and carried on. Feels bad, man. Right, we need belief and we need vigor, but I don't know how to get vigor. So you can barely ever get vigor, right? Unless... Okay, so that one there is patience, right? The angel. So if we get a bunch of patience and then we get vigor, that means we'll get however much we got in vigor as belief. As patience, sorry. The problem is there aren't much vigor. Bar like play with toys. I guess we could do this. So, like, this. Yeah, because we want to gain vigor. And then we need, like, belief as well. So, this one and this one, I think. Because these are the ones which have, like, the highest chance. Yeah, that'll do. Done! Okay, that's one. Woo, we got one. Everybody, one vigor, yay! Fucking artistry. The greatest power Sarah possessed was her power of telling stories and of making everything she talked about seem like a story, whether it was one or not. It was that power which Lavinia and certain other girls were most envious of and at the same time most fascinated by in spite of themselves. And it was in service of that power that so many of Miss Minchin's students had gathered in Sarah's jewel box rooms, seating themselves on chairs or cushions or rugs to listen. We know like 4. Like, who's really here? Lavinia isn't. The princess sat on the white rocks beside the lagoon with a shining white lily in her hands. And as she turned it this way and that, she watched its reflection dance the water across the water below. The waters of the lagoon lay still, crystal clear and green as glass. But the princess could only see her flower in the reflection, and never herself. Oh shit, is this a secret story about how she was a vampire all along? Oh shit. So she looked and she looked until at last she saw a face in the waters. Not her face, but the face of a merman. Sarah went on to tell the courtship between... the princess and the merman prince. Come on. There were no courtship now. It's just rampant sex. Oh, what's that? You need more bait, love? Oh, I got plenty. Probably none of that happened. And the girls who listened sighed sweetly and leaned their cheeks against their hands or each other. As they listened, the door to the room swung silently open, and that same dirty figure Sarah had glimpsed before crept into the room, carrying a heavy coal box. The maid was cleaner than she had been on that other day, but seemed just as frightened. She hunched by the fire, afraid to even look at the other children or appear to be listening. She put on pieces of coal cautiously with her fingers so that she might make no disturbing noise, and she swept about the fire irons very softly. But Sarah saw that she was doing her work slowly in the hope of catching a word here and there, and realizing this, she raised her voice and spoke more clearly. It's halfway through the story. What can we really tell? Like, come on, a merman and a princess were shagging, okay? The princess took her seat in the great clear bubble carriage, and a team of 6 seahorses pulled her into the ocean, their harnesses woven with pearls. Then she realised that she had actually been taking acid. None of this was happening, and she drowned. God damn it. Down into the sea they dove. At first the water grew dark, and the princess was afraid, but then, far below, fluttering and rippling through the depths, there shone a light. The small drudge before the grate swept the hearth once, and then swept it again, and finally forgot to play at sweeping at all. The brush hung idly from her fingers as Sarah described winding grottos beneath the seas, paved with silver sand and lit by glowing sea stars. So this new girl is probably the new girl we can talk to, right? Can't be much worse than Ermengarde, surely. It was the choirs of mermaids singing that had proved her undoing. The forgotten brush slipped from her fingers to clatter against the hearth and drew Lavinia's attention. What? That girl has been listening! The culprit snatched up her brush and scrambled to her feet. She grabbed the coal box and simply scuttled out of the room like a little frightened insect fleeing for cover. So Lavinia was here all along. I knew she was listening, why wouldn't she? She isn't one of us, Sarah. It isn't proper to talk with servants. Unless they are upper servants like your Mariette, that's all right. I wasn't talking with her, I was telling her a story. I do not know whether your papa would like you to tell stories to servant girls, but I know my papa wouldn't like me to do... Well, look, we're not all pricks, all right? We're not all massive 8-inch dongers, all right? Jeez. My papa, I don't believe he would mind in the least. He knows that stories belong to everybody. Nothing belongs to everybody. If they did, they'd all have to fight over it. Only loyal Ermengarde took Sarah's side. I think Sarah should tell stories to whomever she wants to tell them. You wouldn't think it wrong if she told stories to Tybalt, would you? Well... The thing... Okay, so there's a slight difference here, Ermengarde, in the fact that you could tell a cat... I don't know, the 2 big robbers went into someone's house and battered her over the head. But you could say that in a really nice way and a cat won't notice the difference. That girl would notice the difference. I should think it rather odd if she were telling stories to a cat. Oh, please, Sarah, finish the story. Sarah looked at the room full of eager, upturned faces. No one wished to follow and harass the fleeing maid, but no one wished to go and invite her back again either. She would continue her fairy story, but she would not forget. Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, we needed vigour to continue Mariette. Oh, don't tell me we're so shit that... Oh, no. Know that this really hurts me, okay? Know that I'm not doing this because I want to. Know that I'm doing this because the game has forced me because it gave me shit vigor, okay? Look, there, I've done it, okay? It's gonna be one scene and it's never gonna happen again. I'll go over it. Sarah was seated comfortably in the classroom, gazing at the window and thinking. It was not the seat was so comfortable. The long-form benches of the schoolroom were chosen for function and ease of use, not for gently cushioning the tender bottoms of schoolgirls. Sarah's own cosy little parlour contained far more comfortable places to sit than the classroom or even the dining room at Miss Minchin's. However, sometimes a change of scenery was more conducive to clear thinking. There was something interesting about being in a classroom when all other students had gone. Is it still a classroom if there is no class inside it? Yes! I mean, is it still a bathroom if there's no bath in it? And yet, it was not long before someone else did enter the room. Someone who stood at the corner of Sarah's vision, unwilling to speak and interrupt, but nearly bouncing on her toes from excitement. Lotte? After looking outside and letting her mind wander for so long, Sarah's eyes seemed to view everything in the wrong colours. Lotte's round face was overlaid with pinks and greens. She blinked a few times to clear her vision. Lotte clapped her hands together, taking this as permission to speak. May we go see the doll Emily now and have tea? All right. Sarah led the way up the stairs, motioning Lotte behind her to stay quiet. We must be careful not to disturb her. Disturb who? If we're very lucky, you might see. The door to Sarah's room stood in front of them. Sarah placed a finger over her own lips, and then to Lotte's. Only after Lotte nodded did she reach the door. Then Sarah suddenly turned the handle and threw it wide open. Its opening revealed the room quite neat and quiet, a fire gently burning in the grate and a wonderful doll sitting in a chair by it, apparently reading a book. Oh, she got back to her seat before we could see her. Of course, they always do. They're as quick as lightning. Lotte looked from Sarah to the doll and back again. Can she walk? Yes, at least I believe she can. I believe dolls can do things they will not let us know about. It's like a Toy Story over again. Oh, does that mean Lotte's going to get fed to a little child next door who's a troublemaker? Oh, I like this. Probably won't happen. Perhaps, really, Emily can read and talk and walk, but she will only do it when people are out of the room. That is her secret. You see, if people knew the dolls could do things, they would make them work, so perhaps they promised each other to keep it a secret. If you stay in the room, Emily will just sit there and stare, but if you go out, she will begin to read, perhaps, or go out and look out of the window. Global conspiracy. Then, if she heard either of us coming, she would just run back and jump into her chair and pretend she had been there the whole time. Bugs Bunny again. Lotte's eyes were magnified enormously as she took in this bewitching new concept. It was a delightful thought. However, Lotte was one of the younger students at Miss Minchin's seminary and as such had experience in being told things by older girls that might not be entirely true. Sarah, does she really walk? Do you truly believe it? I pretend that I believe she can, and that makes it seem as if it were true. So it's not true. When you suppose things, when you pretend them with great vigour, that makes them almost real. If you imagine for yourself that there are fairies in London's sky, if you stare up into the sky thinking about fairies and looking very hard for them, you might almost catch a glimpse of one. And you're not sure what you saw. Was it real or wasn't it? Were you pretending? Was it a dream or a vision? Did you actually see anything at all? The hell are we? This is some weird shit. You know that you are not pretending, so it is not so terrible if you didn't see anything. But maybe, just maybe, you were right all along. Sometimes stories do come true. Do you understand? I think so. Would you like to hold Emily? Oh, may I? May I really? She is beautiful. And Emily was put into her arms. Lotte smiled down at the doll, cradling her gently and fingering her... Fuck me, I'm going to need to take this hat off and pretend that didn't happen. Oh, ooh. They must... Oh boy. They must move very... They must move very fast to get out of sight when we must come in, mustn't they? I wonder if we could learn to move like lightning. Oh, we couldn't do it. You see, it's a kind of magic. Maybe people can have magic too. That is nice to pretend. But whether we can have magic or not, we can certainly have tea. We can indeed have tea. Alright, that scene with Lotte wasn't as bad as I thought, I guess. I thought it was going to be cuteness and I'd have to bash a mallet over my head to sort of like get around it. But it wasn't too bad. Soon we'll have new characters in Ermengarde's new scene and we'll never have to do that again.